Hi guys, Peter here, Thailand bound. Thanks for stopping by my channel. So today, the subject of the video, I'm going to do one of these relationship videos, and it's a relationship between a Scottish guy called Stan and a bar lady called Lek. We don't use real names for obvious reasons, but we're calling them Lek and Stan. So to understand this story properly, you've got to know a bit of the background of Lek, the bar girl, and you have to know the background of Stan, the guy we're talking about. So we'll pick it up with Stan first of all. So Stan was a Scottish guy. He was quite successful in the UK. He had a job in security. He started coming out to Thailand in the late 80s, early 90s. He was about 10 years older than me at the time when I met him. I was around 37. Stan was 10 years older, so probably 47, 48. Now, he'd been coming out to Thailand long before me. I didn't get there until 1992. And at first, he was like everybody else. He came out on frequent visits. He liked the bar scene. He liked the female company. And it became a habit coming over. He was divorced. He was living on his own. As I say, he wasn't hard up for money. He'd done quite well in the UK. And he decided the trips were becoming a bit tiring. He was going out more and more, and he decided that he'd move out to Thailand. It was a lot easier to get the visas back then. So he moved out there. Now, to cut a long story short, we'll get straight to the beginning of the story where he met Lek. Now, I'd met Stan in the bar. As you walk into Nanaplaza, there's a bar on the right there. And I'd gone in there for an afternoon beer. I'd struck up a conversation with him, and we became friends after that. And in fact, we became very, very good friends. Now, when we used to meet up, one of the bars that we used to like to meet was called the Three Roses. It's not there. The bar is still there, but the actual name's changed. It's totally different now. Now, I'm going back to the mid 90s, around, we're talking 96, 97. And there used to be a bar there called the Three Roses Bar. Now, on this particular night, we went inside, we had a drink, and there was a new girl on the stage. We'd never seen her before. We checked with the guys who own it, and apparently the story was, this is Lek I'm talking about now, she'd come down from up country, Isan, as a lot of them do. She had a son, she put the son with her mother, and she came down to Bangkok to work in the bars. It was actually her first night in the bar. She'd been dancing for about an hour. She hadn't even had a drink bought for her. Stan liked her. Now, when he found out it was her first night, he got really keen then. You know, she'd just come down. She hadn't been with any customers. And he basically bought her a drink, struck up a conversation, and he spent quite a bit of time with her. And in the end, I got bored. I said, look, I'll see you later. I went off, had a few drinks, come back, and he was still there. They basically became girlfriend and boyfriend. He took her out the bar. I don't know if there was any financial arrangement. I'm guessing there must have been, because she had a son up country. She was in Bangkok to work. She needed money. So if Stan wanted her out of the bar, then I'm sure he would have had to compensate her. I just don't know the details of that. But she was living in his apartment on Soi 3. I started to see less and less of Stan because he was involved with Lek, and our relationship as far as friends kind of faded. And I started hanging out with other friends. Now, I found out a number of years how the relationship went, what happened. And one thing about these girls who work in the bars and the go-go bars, I've talked to a lot of them. I've had friends who've owned bars in Nanaplaza, and a lot of them have the same unrealistic dream, and that is to meet a foreigner who's got plenty of money, who'll marry them, take them out of the bar and take them back to their own country, whether that's the US, the UK, Australia, wherever it is. That's the dream. Now, if that happens, sometimes it's not as good as they think it's going to be. They tend to think that if they get taken out of the bar, they get taken to a foreign country, they've got it made, all their worries are over. But I'd found out that Stan, who, as I said earlier in the video, has got quite a lot of money, he got a visa for Lek and her son eventually. So Lek, her son, and Stan went back to the UK. They were living together. Stan loved her boy, her son, and treated him as if it was his own son. They got him into a fairly good school where they were living. Stan bought a nice 4-bedroom house. Her son was at school. Stan had set up a trust fund for her son so that he could be educated. I guess he just felt he was giving a chance to somebody who otherwise wouldn't have had a chance in Thailand. So he set this trust fund up. He was at a free school in the UK, but he would have gone on to further education, which would have cost money, and Stan had put this money by for him. I decided, I got a bit fed up with Thailand back then, and it's great, Thailand, when you first get there. I lived there for about 6 years, and then it became the heat and the same lines that come out of the girls' mouths when you go into the bars. I just got fed up of it, and I just decided to come back to the UK for a while. So I knew Stan was here, so when I came back, I'd settled down. I'd been here a few weeks. I decided to look him up. Now, for some reason, I didn't have his number or email address, but I did have Lek's email address. So I contacted Lek, introduced myself, told her who I was. She knew immediately. Asked about Stan, and she told me he'd passed away, which really surprised me. The story was that he'd actually got cancer. He'd had chemo. He was only about 55, something like that. They told him he was on the mend, and he basically died, and the funeral was going to be the following week. I asked Lek if I could come along. I thought I'd like to pay my respects. It wasn't a case of thinking I had to go. I wanted to go. And Stan had 2 sons, by the way. They were about sort of 23 and 25 at college. They were going to obviously attend the funeral as well. So she told me the day and the date. As I say, it was about a week later. I went down to her house, or what was Stan's house. So I went down to the funeral on the day in question, and I spoke to Stan's 2 sons. Now, after Stan had been, after the ceremony was finished, Lek invited me back to the house. They had some food there. There were quite a few Thais there, actually. I was surprised how many Thai people were at this funeral. But it struck me, it was really strange. It was more of a party atmosphere. I mean, when you go to a wake, a funeral, it's quite a gloomy, sad affair. People are kind of remembering the good side of whoever it is who passed away. And, it's a very low-keyed event. But this wasn't. This was a party. It was definitely a party, which kind of shocked me a bit. That even some of the Thais were dancing to music, which I thought it wasn't right. Anyway, I'd had enough. I'd been there for about 45 minutes. I didn't want to stay any longer. It was a little bit sad to see this. And I left, and that was it. I didn't have any more contact with Lek. And I decided to head back out to Thailand about a year after that. I was living there. I met some people who knew Lek in England, and they were now in Bangkok. And the story transpired, what happened with Lek. Now, bearing in mind, Stan had left her a nice property, fully furnished. He'd seen her, she was comfortable as far as finances go. Her son was set up to go to further education. That was all paid for. Now, apparently, once she could have stayed in the UK with her son, and they could have applied for long-term visas. She took the money from the accounts that Stan had left for her son's education. She sold the house, converted that into cash, sold everything. I think they had a car that Stan had, not a new one, but it was, there was a car there, which she sold and also converted to cash. She got on a plane with her son and came back to Thailand. Went to her village. Apparently she bought a small house up there. She was seen splashing the cash all over Bangkok. She popped into Nana just to see friends that were working that she knew from her village. She was buying all the drinks, a lot of gold on her. So she wasn't a grieving widow. She was quite a wealthy woman. After a couple of years, the money ran out. The jewellery was sold, and she was left with nothing. But you're probably asking, where is Lek today? She's in Soi 22. They have a few bars down there. She's a hostess. I think you would call her a hostess. She's working in one of these open air beer bars. She makes her money from, if you buy her a drink and sit with her, she makes money like that. And basically, Lek has ended up exactly as she did several years ago when she came down to Nanaplaza. She's got nothing. She works in a bar, and she relies on what she makes that evening to take care of her and her son. So that's it, guys. I mean, for whatever reason, Lek decided that she was coming back to Bangkok. She was all set up in the UK. So as you can see, the dream doesn't always work out like they think it would. I think myself personally, I think she was a silly girl. I have spoken to her in Bangkok. I have seen her in Soi 22. Asked her what happened. She kind of avoided my questions, which is understandable. She looks a bit more tired. She doesn't look as pretty as she did when we first met her, but she's making money. So anyway, that's the story, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. For now, that's it from me.